Pain doesn't knock. It doesn't call ahead. It doesn't care who you are, how successful you've been, or how much you think you've prepared. Pain just walks in uninvited, unexpected, and unapologetic. But in that brutal rival lies your transformation, because pain doesn't ask for permission. It forces you to meet the most honest version of yourself. It doesn't schedule an appointment. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't show up politely at a convenient time. It barges in loud, sudden, and uninvited. One moment, life is smooth, predictable, safe. The next moment, everything is flipped upside down. No matter how well you've planned your life, no matter how positive your mindset or how disciplined your daily routine is, pain comes anyway. And when it does, it doesn't care about your dreams, your peace, or your prayers. It shows up at 2 a.m. with bad news, with heartbreak, with betrayal, with loss, with failure, and it doesn't wait for your permission. We're taught to believe we have control, that if we do everything right, we'll be rewarded, that if we love deeply, we'll be loved back, that if we stay honest, life will be fair. But pain exposes a truth we don't want to admit. Life doesn't play by our rules. Think about it. No one chooses to lose a loved one. No one plans for a diagnosis. No one expects to be betrayed by the very person they trusted the most. And no one asks to feel like they're drowning inside their own body, surrounded by people who can't see the storm. Pain arrives without explanation, without reason, without mercy. But that moment, that raw entrance of pain, is where everything changes. Not outside, but within. When pain hits, the world slows down. Your body is there, but your soul feels like it's somewhere else. Breathing becomes heavier. The days blur. Food loses taste. Time stops making sense. And suddenly, you're no longer the same person who woke up that morning. This is the first collision, the first blow pain lands. And it's not the pain itself that shatters you. It's your mind trying to make sense of it. The moment pain arrives, we rarely react with courage. We react with shock, with denial, with silence. Shock is that blank stare when everything feels unreal. You walk through your day, but you're not really there. People speak to you, but their voices feel far away. You hear them, but you're not listening. You smile, but inside you're hollow. You go to work, cook dinner, scroll your phone, but you're just moving through life like a shadow. You think, this can't be happening. Not to me, not now. But pain doesn't care about not now. And then comes denial. The mind tries to protect itself. You tell yourself it's temporary, that maybe it wasn't that serious, that maybe they'll call you back, that maybe the report was wrong, that maybe you misunderstood. Denial isn't weakness. It's a defense mechanism, a shield we hold up to delay the weight of reality, because we're not yet strong enough to carry it. But eventually, reality pushes through, and then comes silence. This silence is not peaceful. It's the silence of a heart that's screaming inside, but can't find the words to explain the pain. It's the silence of someone who's surrounded by people yet feels utterly alone. It's when you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering when the ache will stop. It's when you sit in a crowded room and feel like the loneliest person on earth. And the hardest part, most people won't see this part of you because pain makes us hide. We don't want to look weak. We don't want pity. We don't want to explain. A pain we can't even understand ourselves. So we put on masks. We say, I'm fine. We post selfies with forced smiles. We distract ourselves with work, with noise, with anything that keeps us from sitting in silence with the truth. But pain waits, quietly, patiently. Because it knows you can't outrun it. That first response, shock, denial, silence isn't a sign of failure. It's the body's natural reaction to something unnatural. It's the soul trying to adjust to a world that suddenly looks unfamiliar. A world where the ground beneath you cracked without warning. And in those early stages, pain isn't just something you feel. It becomes the air you breathe. It colors how you see everything. It touches every thought, every heartbeat, every breath. Yet here's the part we often miss. That very silence, that hollow space, is sacred. Because in that silence, in that pause, a transformation is beginning. It's invisible. It's slow. It's painful. But it's real. And it's only the beginning. Pain has a way of stripping away everything that isn't real. When it arrives, it doesn't just bring suffering, it brings clarity. It tears off the masks we wear, the roles we play, the lies we tell ourselves just to keep functioning. And it forces us to confront the one thing we've been avoiding for years: ourselves. Not the version of ourselves we post on social media. Not the one dressed for interviews, rehearsed and polished. Not the one that tells others I'm okay with a smile. But the raw, unfiltered, wounded version we've buried beneath distractions, achievements, and routine. Pain holds up a mirror, and in that reflection, you don't see who you want to be, you see who you are. You see your fears. You see your insecurities. You see the moments you've hidden from. You see how much you've depended on validation, on approval, on performance. Just to feel worthy. You see the cracks in your strength and the truth behind your silence. And in that brutal reflection, you begin to wake up. It's terrifying at first, because most of us are afraid to be alone with ourselves. That silence is loud. That truth is sharp. But pain doesn't flinch. It stays with you in the quiet, forcing you to look longer, deeper until the image becomes clearer. And here's the paradox: it's your invitation. An invitation to rebuild. Not as who the world expects you to be, but as who you were always meant to become. Because what you see in that mirror isn't weakness. It's the beginning of self-awareness. And self-awareness is the birthplace of growth. You don't truly meet yourself in success. You meet yourself when everything's falling apart, and you're forced to ask, who am I now that I've lost what I thought defined me? That question, that's where the work begins. Comfort is seductive. It's warm. It's safe. And it tells you, stay here. You've made it. But comfort rarely demands change. It rarely questions your values. It never holds a mirror to your soul. It allows you to live on the surface, satisfied with appearances and routine, convinced that growth is optional. In comfort, we coast. We settle into familiar patterns. We build identities around our jobs, our relationships, our routines. We keep busy, productive, distracted numb and slowly, without noticing, we become comfortable prisoners of a life that no longer challenges us. But pain? Pain doesn't let you stay asleep. Pain shakes your soul like an earthquake, breaking down everything unstable in your life, your false identities, your shallow priorities, your borrowed dreams. It doesn't come to ruin you. It comes to reveal. Pain teaches what no textbook can, what no mentor can explain. Because pain doesn't teach in theory, it teaches through experience. It teaches through loss, through heartbreak, through betrayal, through failure. Through nights where you cry so hard your ribs hurt, through days where you drag yourself forward because quitting feels easier. In those moments, pain whispers truths that comfort never could. That strength isn't loud, it's silent resilience. That healing isn't linear, it's messy, inconsistent, full of relapses and breakthroughs. That peace doesn't come from avoiding struggle, it comes from surviving it. That success isn't the goal, becoming who you were created to be is. And the strange thing, as you walk through pain, something shifts. You begin to see that pain was not punishment. It was preparation. It was pulling you out of a shallow life and into something deeper, something truer. It was making space for a version of you that couldn't be born in comfort. Because comfort preserves, but pain transforms. Comfort builds a life that looks good. Pain builds a life that feels real. And that's what this journey is about. Not staying untouched, but becoming undeniably real. So when you meet pain, and you will, don't run, don't numb it, don't pretend it's not happening. Look into the mirror it holds up. Not because it's easy, but because on the other side of that reflection is the strongest, most authentic, most unshakable version of you. And that version, it's been waiting for you to come home. We are raised in a world that tells us, if something hurts, fix it. If something breaks, replace it. If you're uncomfortable, distract yourself. But healing doesn't work that way. Growth doesn't work that way. And pain, most of all, doesn't work that way. We've become so good at escaping, at running from the very things that could heal us. We drown our grief in noise. We silence our sadness with screens. We avoid reflection by staying busy, always busy. But pain doesn't leave because you ignore it. It doesn't fade because you pretend it doesn't exist. It just waits, patiently, underneath the surface, until one day it bursts through in ways we don't expect. Sudden anger, quiet depression, emotional numbness, burnout, anxiety, illness. The truth is, the only way to heal through pain is to sit with it. Yes, sit, not solve, not escape. Just be with it. That might sound strange, even terrifying, because sitting with pain means allowing yourself to feel without filtering, without judging, without numbing. It means sitting in a quiet room where there's no music, no phone, no distraction, and letting the tears come, letting the memories replay, letting the ache move through your chest like waves you can't stop. It means facing the fears you buried, the grief you avoided, the heartbreak you swore you were over. And it's hard. It's uncomfortable. It feels endless. But that's where the transformation happens. Because pain isn't just trying to break you, it's trying to break you open. When you sit with pain, you start to hear its voice. And no, it doesn't sound like punishment. It sounds like truth. It tells you where you've been living small. It shows you who and what you've been chasing to feel enough. It uncovers your emotional wounds, not to shame you, but to teach you how to heal them. It reveals the relationships that weren't real, the dreams that weren't yours, the life you were building out of fear. But this voice can only be heard in stillness. That's why most people run, because stillness feels like weakness. But in reality, stillness is strength, the kind of strength that can hold your sorrow without collapsing. That can say, I won't hide from this anymore. That's when something begins to shift. You begin to carry your pain differently, not as a burden that weighs you down, but as a teacher walking beside you. And that's when you realize pain doesn't just change how you feel. It changes what matters. When you've walked through suffering deep, soul-rattling suffering, something inside you gets rewired. The noise of life becomes quieter. The expectations of others become irrelevant. And the urgency to prove yourself fades. Because pain burns away the unnecessary. Suddenly, that promotion you were obsessed with doesn't feel as important. That toxic relationship you tolerated for years feels impossible to stay in. That constant need to impress everyone, gone. And instead, something more honest emerges. You start craving depth over distraction. Real over perfect. Peace over performance. You begin asking bigger questions. Who do I want to be? Not just what do I want to do. What relationships feed my soul? Not just stroke my ego. What legacy am I leaving? Not in things, but in people. Pain has a way of pulling your attention back to what is essential. Not what is urgent, not what is trending, but what is eternal. It brings your focus to presence, to being fully here, now, with the people you love. It awakens your gratitude, not for the big wins, but for the quiet moments, a deep conversation, a warm hug, a breath of fresh air on a hard day. Pain makes you appreciate things you once overlooked, because once you've tasted loss, even the smallest joy feels sacred. And it forces you to protect your energy. You stop chasing what doesn't feed you. You stop giving your time to people who drain you. You stop sacrificing your mental health to meet expectations you never agreed to. Pain simplifies your life not by subtraction, but by clarity. You begin to realize that not everything that's loud is important, and not everything that's quiet is irrelevant. What matters most often whispers, and it takes pain to finally hear it. So when pain enters your life, yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair. But also, yes, it clarifies. It refines. It realigns. It breaks your illusion of control, but it replaces it with something more powerful: purpose. And from that place, you don't just survive. You begin to live differently. We all want the breakthrough. We all want that moment of clarity, of victory, of rebirth. But what no one tells you is that breakthrough rarely comes in comfort. It comes after the breakdown. It's in the middle of the storm, not when the skies are clear. It's when you're gasping for air, not when you're breathing easy. It's when everything feels like it's falling apart, and yet Something deep inside you whispers, "Don't give up, not yet." The breakdown is not the end. It's the beginning of something sacred. It is the moment when every false layer of your identity starts to collapse. The masks fall off. The noise quiets down. The distractions disappear. And you are left bare, raw, vulnerable, facing yourself. And that's exactly where the breakthrough is born. It doesn't feel heroic. It doesn't come with trumpets or applause. It looks like you crying alone in your car. It sounds like you whispering, "I don't know who I am anymore." It feels like everything inside you has shattered beyond repair. But that's the illusion pain wants you to believe, that you're broken beyond healing. You're not. What's actually happening is this. Everything that no longer serves your future is dying. The old version of you, the one who lived for approval, who tolerated pain in silence, who played small, who pretended to be fine, that version is breaking down. Because it has to. You can't carry old wounds into your new season. You can't wear old identities in a future built on truth. And you definitely can't walk into your purpose while dragging the weight of who you used to be. So the breakdown is necessary. It is the sacred unraveling of everything false. And although it hurts, although it burns, you will rise from it different, not weaker, wiser. Because right after the moment you think you can't take it anymore, something powerful happens. You do. You take one more breath. You get up one more time. You say, "Maybe today I'll try again." And that choice, made in your darkest hour, is the birth of your breakthrough. Not when everything's perfect, but when everything's a mess and you choose not to quit. We live in a world addicted to noise, constant notifications, background music, endless content. We fill every second with distraction, afraid of silence because in silence, truth speaks, and truth isn't always easy to hear. But pain doesn't care about your schedule. It doesn't care about your next meeting or your highlight reel. When pain comes, it silences everything else. Not as punishment, but so you can finally hear what your soul's been trying to say. Because pain speaks a language that peace never could. Peace is lovely, but it rarely challenges you. It doesn't confront your illusions. It doesn't demand growth. It lets you stay comfortable. And sometimes, comfort keeps you stuck. But pain demands attention. It grabs you by the heart and says, "Look at this. This needs healing. This needs change. This needs you." And when you start listening, not just reacting, but truly listening, you begin to hear messages you've missed for years. You're not weak for feeling this. You've been carrying too much for too long. That person never deserved your loyalty. You're allowed to start over. It's time to choose yourself. Pain reveals the truth you've buried, the dreams you've silenced, the emotions you've pushed aside to be strong for everyone else. It uncovers the unmet needs, the unresolved grief, the parts of you that have been asking to be seen. And maybe for the first time in your life you listen, not to the noise outside you, but to the voice within you. That inner voice grows louder when everything else grows quiet. It tells you the kind of life you actually want to live, not the one you were told to live. It gives you permission to let go, to say no, to walk away, to rebuild. And if you're still, If you're brave enough to lean in instead of running, you'll hear it clearly. This pain is not the end of you. It's the awakening of you. Pain doesn't choose its victims. It doesn't scan for qualifications or skip the strong. It arrives uninvited, and when it hits, it levels everyone the same, rich or poor, prepared or naive, innocent or guilty. But while pain doesn't let you choose whether it comes, you always have a choice in how it shapes you. You can become bitter or better. You can let it define your life, or you can let it refine your life. You can wear it like chains, or turn it into wings. That's the brutal beauty of pain. It gives you the opportunity to choose your identity. Too many people live their entire lives stuck in pain's shadow. They replay the betrayal, the failure, the trauma, over and over like a movie that never ends. They become so identified with what happened to them that they forget who they are without it. But there comes a moment, one sacred, powerful moment where you decide, I am not what happened to me. I am not my wounds. I am what I choose to become from them. That moment doesn't come easy. It comes after the nights you felt like giving up, after the days you dragged yourself through your own darkness, after the silence, the anger, the grief, the loneliness. But one day, you wake up, and instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You start asking, what can I do with what happened to me? And that's when the victim becomes a victor. Not because the pain disappeared, but because you chose to rise anyway. You chose to forgive not because they deserved it, but because you deserved peace. You chose to keep going not because you weren't tired, but because something inside said, there's more. You chose to speak, to fight, to love, to hope again and again until your scars became your strength. And here's what you begin to understand. The power was never in the pain. The power was always in your response to it. There's a sacred truth that only those who've suffered truly understand. Your deepest pain can become someone else's greatest healing. The moment you choose to turn your pain into purpose is the moment your suffering stops being a weight and becomes a weapon for good. Think about it. Who better to comfort someone in grief than the one who's buried a piece of their own heart? Who better to speak to the broken than someone who's had to rebuild from nothing? Who better to lift the silent than someone who's learned to speak through their own trembling voice? Your story, no matter how shattered it feels, is not useless. It's a torch. And someone out there is walking in darkness, desperately waiting for the light you've carried through your storm. But purpose doesn't always look like a stage or a spotlight. Sometimes it looks like a late-night phone call to someone who needs to hear you're not alone. A journal entry that becomes a book. A job you take because you want to serve, not just succeed. A child you raise with love you never received yourself. A stranger you see drowning in the same silence you once fought through. Pain teaches compassion like nothing else can. It softens the heart, sharpens the mind, and widens the soul. And the moment you stop asking, why me? And start asking, who can I help with this? That's the moment your life becomes bigger than your suffering. And here's the truth. You may never understand the full reason behind your pain, but that doesn't mean it can't have meaning. Maybe you were the one in your family chosen to break the cycle, Maybe you're the one in your community who will tell the truth others were too afraid to say. Maybe you're the one who will show the next generation what it looks like to rise after life knocks you flat. That's not just healing. That's legacy. And it doesn't begin when the pain ends. It begins the moment you decide, this pain will not be wasted. I will use it. I will grow through it. And I will lift others because of it. Because pain didn't ask for permission when it walked into your life. But you don't need permission to turn it into purpose.